What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to NFL Turf Talk live here on DSM Media. Week 3 takeaways. Are the Bucs in trouble? Are the Eagles the team to beat in the NFC? Monday Night Football, Cowboys, Giants can either be a great game or a snoozer. That and much, much more when we are back in 30 seconds.
One-on-one. Clement flares out to the right. Caught over the middle and into. He's at the 45. Are you kidding? Oh, he's going to go. Oh, Brady gets hit. The ball is out. And Philadelphia has
it. What is going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Happy Victory Monday to Eagles fans out there. It's becoming a common thing, Scotty. But this is NFL Turf Talk live here on DSM Media's Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter channels. If you're new to the channel, head on over to @DSM_media on Twitter. Hit that follow button. Help us grow. We greatly appreciate it. And if you guys are new to the channel, head on over to the YouTube channel specifically. It's where we can pull up your comments, get interactive with the show. Of course, as always, if you're on the channel, hit that like button on this video, subscribe to the channel. It is free. And we do love interacting with each and every one of you. I'm one half of your host here, Dylan Davis. You can find me on Twitter @DylanJD98. And of course, to my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. Check him out @ScottyDrowned. My man, what's going on this Monday?
Not much, man. Not much. Just enjoying the Victory Monday, of course. Always better to go into the start of the week with a W, of course. And we won in quite dominating fashion once again. So that was definitely a pleasure yesterday. But no, just getting ready for tonight's game, I guess. I will be keeping my eye on it. I know we're going to get into that later. Just kind of a barometer game for the NFC East, looking at, and same thing from yesterday with the Commanders and the Eagles. You kind of saw what happened with that. I'm interested to see what happens tonight and kind of how this game goes, because it's going to tell me a lot about both of these teams, I feel like.
So we'll get into that game in the later portion of the show. And for me, it'll tell me a lot about the home team. It'll tell me more so about the New York Giants. How kind of real is this quote undefeated start? They're one of 3 remaining undefeated teams with the Eagles and the Dolphins so far this year. Everyone's kind of talking about that. It'll tell me more so about them. The Cowboys obviously still don't have Michael Gallup back. Dalton Schultz is out for tonight. Obviously, Cooper Rush is under center. So it's not really the Cowboys that'll be on the field in 4 or 5 or so weeks when Dak's back. So I'll limit my expectations for them at the moment. But like you talked about, man, let's start right here. Let's start in the NFC East with the Philadelphia Eagles visiting the Washington Commanders. We all picked the Eagles to win on DSM pregame live panel. We all predicted them to win, to cover, probably win around 10 points. But I don't think any of us expected another, start to finish kind of game here. 24-8 Eagles favor. They score 24 points in the first half for the 3rd straight week to start the year. They hold their opponent to single digits for the 2nd straight week. Obviously, the safety from Boston Scott, but the defense only allowing six points, man. But you mentioned barometer, and it's something we talked about on that pregame show and on Turf Talk here before. And it wasn't so much barometer in terms of competition. Right. It's like the Vikings were a nice little barometer test early on in the year. They're coming off a big win against the Packers. This was the best team the Eagles and Jalen Hurts had beaten so far in his early career. This was a barometer in the sense of it's a road game, division rival. You're coming on a short week off of that impressive performance. Can you start to stack these wins, and can you start to stack impressive, quarterback play in a row and defensive improvements? And they answered those questions again. Scotty, they came out guns blazing from the opening jump. Defense comes away with 9 sacks, forces Carson Wentz to put the ball on the ground. Not once, but I think he fumbled twice with one going the opposite direction. Jalen Hurts was, I believe, 22 of 35 after starting 1 for 5 on the day. So I'll throw it to you first before I kind of dissect how Jalen Hurts looked. But just your overall thoughts on this Eagles win. They start the year 3-0.
Yeah, my takeaway from this game was a lot of what we talked about yesterday going into the game, and I kind of downplayed the game for Jalen Hurts, and he said, screw that, I'm going to go out here and annihilate this team as well. They started out slow, it was a little worrisome at first. Washington was playing pretty physical, I would say. They were getting away with stuff, but you got to kind of do that when you're playing against a skill
Right.
group like the Eagles have at this point. I thought it was another step in the right direction for Gannon and Hurts. You talk about Hurts building consistency. That's 2 straight games over 300 passing yards. And I know we talked about how it's not about statistics. It's not about this. It's not about that. You can't deny that. Like over 300 yards in the first half.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to do what it's going to do. Yeah. And I mean, you talk about games from AJ, from Smitty. Smitty, hell of a game. I got to give my man a nod for that game because that was amazing to watch.
Dude.
That dude, for such, all the talk about him being so small and all this,
the way he can high point a ball.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's ridiculous.
Like,
and he's so tough. He's so tough on top of it. It's just ridiculous. But then also Gannon, another step in the right direction. You let those guys go out there. They didn't go out there and blitz a whole bunch. They got there with their 4 main guys, their 4 main rushers yesterday, and they did a nice job of it. That was the best I've seen our defensive line look in a while. Now, how much of that is just how bad the Washington Commanders' offensive line is? But 9 sacks are 9 sacks. I mean, that's ridiculous. And that is definitely the best performance that we've seen in quite a while. It's got us talking about if this team is the best team, not only in the NFC, but in the entire NFL. And I'll let you share your thoughts before we dive into the grand scheme. But I think it was just another one of those games where they dominated on both sides. The only thing, and I know we'll probably dive into this a little bit, but the second half's right offensively, it's annoying. It's annoying, but
So I was with you, in a sense. I'm watching the game play out yesterday, and it's like, oh my God, another ridiculous first half on both sides of the ball, but even more so the offensive side, right? And it's like the second half that, we kept talking about how they've left food on the table and they're not playing to that standard yet, even though they've looked amazing. I've slowed down on being annoyed about how the second half. It's not, to me, it's just, okay, you have a 24-point lead at halftime. I'm going to limit giving away momentum. And so the play calling changes. Now, should it change so drastically? We can argue that, but it would be a lot different. Like week 1 was a worry because the offense didn't do much in the second half and the defense allowed a comeback. The last 2 weeks, there have been, offensive, I don't want to use the word shortcomings in the second half. Just offensive protection, just taking care of the ball, putting the ball on the ground, chewing clock. Yeah. It's boring. It's not as much fun to watch.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's gotten the job done. The defense wasn't allowing Washington to come back in this game. So if it would have got to 24-14 in the third quarter, 24-17, then I'd be like, all right, we got to start changing some things offensively, start pushing the ball down the field again. It didn't call for that. So, in the moment, I was like, damn, man, I really wish, I hope this isn't a problem going forward. But I've kind of thrown that out the window. But I know me and you were texting about that yesterday during the game.
It's one of those things where it isn't a problem until it's a problem, right? That's kind of how I look at it at this point. It is just something to be notated. I don't think it's something to complain or be annoyed. It was annoying from a parlay stance, but not from an Eagles fan winning the game stance. It was a dominating win. And you're protecting your players, like you said. I think it's just one of those things, if Carson gets the ball down the field and they're able to score on one of those drives earlier on in the second half, how does it look when that pressure turns on? But once again, it's one of those things that you simply can't harp over until it's a problem. And quite honestly, this Eagles team, maybe they're how many situations has Hurts and even Sirianni specifically been in this situation where they're just dominating the game,
right?
And
where they
can
can
put
just
away in the first half.
You
know what I mean?
They
got to live and learn. You know what I mean? So, and maybe that's what's going on, and maybe they will be a little bit moderately more aggressive in a different situation. But living and learning, and like I said, you won't have to harp about it until it's a problem, and that's the way it should be. It is what it is.
So I agree, man. But so I'm going to kind of dissect it one side of the ball at a time. I'll start defensively. You already hit it at the 9 sacks, the defensive line play. And, can it be the fact that Carson held on to the ball for too long? Of course he did in certain situations. Could it be the fact that Washington's offensive line was beat up and was horrible? Of course, that was a large majority of it, but you have to give props to Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox and Hassan Reddick. They all, Josh Sweat, they all had their imprint. They all had their fingerprint on this game. And it was so nice to see, Scotty, those questions start to get answered that we had leaving week 1's win was, why, like, Gannon shouldn't have to dial up pressure after pressure, blitz after blitz to get in the backfield, to disrupt the play, to get to the quarterback. The front four worked their asses off yesterday. So props out to them. But I also just want to talk about the rest of the defense. Let's not kid ourselves and say through the first 2 weeks that Washington's offense was this stagnant. Washington's offense put up high 20 points in both games, threw for over 300 yards in both games. Darius Slay, James Bradbury locking up Terry McLaurin. Now, I know Curtis Samuel had like that end around on the ground to start the game. He was a non-factor. They basically said, Carson, drop back as many times as you want. They got an early lead, and they pinned their ears back and got after him. The thing that sticks out to me about this defense, Scotty, they're all over the field, man. They're fast. There's a lot of playmakers on it. The linebackers are fast. I know we haven't seen much of Nakobe Dean, and I would love to see him on the field, but TJ Edwards has apparently been the highest graded linebacker in the entire National Football League to start this year.
Yeah.
Kazir White has been
really
all over the place.
good.
Yeah. CJ Gardner-Johnson. So, like, these dudes are all over the field. I think they're third in pass coverage or fifth in pass coverage. One or the other. This defense has been really, really good the last 2 weeks. Now let's get to the more fun side of things. Jalen Hurts. What questions, what boxes can he continue to tick? To check off that we have of him, right? So, like I said, after week 2's performance, it's no longer a question of if he can do these things. Can he make these throws? We saw firsthand he's capable of making these throws, of making these reads, of beating a zone, right? So he did a lot of things special through the air in week 2. Now, what can he do week 3? Not only be consistent and do more of those things with his arm in week 3, which he did, Scotty. You hit it right on the head. Another 300-plus passing yard performance by him. 3 passing touchdowns. He only ran the ball 9 times for 20 yards. Yep. The Eagles did not run the ball well as a unit against Washington. They basically said, Jalen Hurts, beat us with your arm. And he did just that. He moved the ball. He pushed the ball down the field with explosive plays better than I've ever seen him do. That ball down the sidelines of Devontae Smith. Now, may not have been a catch. Thank God Riverboat Rod didn't get that red challenge flag out in time. Nonetheless, the throw couldn't have been any better. Yeah, the throw couldn't have been any better. The throw downfield in double coverage that Devontae Smith goes up in high points couldn't have been any better. The touchdown pass on the slant to A.J. Brown, I know everyone's like, oh, it's a behind. No, it's not. If he puts it in stride, the defender can get a play on it. He puts it, it's basically like A.J. Brown's a shield. Use that big body, put it on his hip. The defender can't get to it. He's at the goal line. Perfect pass. So he did more things that we didn't know. Like the way he was able to move the ball down the field with explosive plays was really impressive. With the accuracy was really impressive. The fact that a defense essentially said, beat us with your arm, stay in the pocket. And he did it. And another thing, one more thing, they started off slow. Punt, he was 1 for 5 to start the game. Washington was bringing some pressure. And then all of a sudden the floodgates opened up, man. And once they did, this offense was flowing. They executed a tight end screen for a touchdown. Holy shit. Things we said before week 1.
How about quick feed Goddard in that tight hole too?
He hurt himself. He didn't just hurt anybody else. He hurt himself on the move. So,
oh man,
as far as Jalen Hurts goes, man, it was another really, really impressive performance. I texted you this. It begs the question, like at halftime, was that a better performance than Monday night, in which we called his best game? Like they're right there. They're tooth and nail for his best game. So that's all you can ask. And the last thing I'll throw to you mentioned Devontae Smith specifically, but just these weapons, man. Like you see the gain of Devon. A.J. Brown's already had 150 plus. Yeah. AJ Brown had a
makes big
150 plus
plays.
receiving yard game. I think he had what do you have? 3? He had 2 nice back-to-back catches yesterday. Let's see, 3 for 18. So you know what I mean? On 3
but
targets.
They're in big moments. Yeah.
Right.
So many weapons all over the field. I'm with you, man. And we're getting to the point with Jalen Hurts where, okay, maybe we go into this weekend and the Jags, they do the same thing. They're like, hey, Jalen Hurts, come and beat us. Eventually, you're going to have to stop doing that because you're going to see these games. And why we're able to get out to these huge leads right now is because big play after big play. And that's because they're filling the box. They're saying, Jalen Hurts, you're not going to run the football. And Jalen Hurts is saying, fine, I'm going to throw it over your head. I got weapons for days. And it's coming from all angles. I mean, Quez drew 2 flags in that game. He didn't he didn't have a catch, I don't think, but still drew 2 huge flags for pass interference. So
here's the thing.
It's ridiculous, man. And I think defenses now, maybe it'll take a few more games, right? Maybe 4 games, 5 games of Jalen Hurts doing this before defenses are like, okay, we got to limit the big play against Eagles. Then what's that Russian offense look like?
Right.
We're talking about one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, and they played their part in this game, I thought.
Yep.
But yeah, man, we're getting to a whole new level, and that's the thing. They still have so much more.
They haven't reached. Exactly. They really haven't reached that standard yet. And you brought up Quez Watkins, and I think it's a really good point. So many people were on the Quez Watkins hype train and how he could be a wide receiver too. And Quez Watkins so far, well, in the last 2 weeks, obviously he didn't have a catch week 1, but in the last 2 weeks when this offense really started to click in the passing game, he's doing exactly what I thought his role would be. He's doing exactly what he should do as a slot receiver in between these guys. He had 2 catches for a bomb of a touchdown on Monday Night Football. Doesn't need to do much. He's just there. He can take the top off defense. You have to pay attention to him. Yesterday, doesn't have a catch, draws 2 PIs down the field on big explosive plays, right? You have to keep it. He's doing Quez Watkins is never going to be in the conversation for wide receiver 2 or a wide receiver 3 that gets 5-6 targets a game. It's just not going to happen. He doesn't need to.
Yeah, you got too many hungry mouths to feed around him. And I mean, you could throw it up to AJ Brown or Smitty any and every play. You can throw. Well,
I believe they had 22 targets between the 2 of them.
Yeah. So it's Hurts, pick your poison. You know what I mean? Whichever one you want to go to on this play. It's throw it up and they'll go get. I mean, these receivers, best tandem in what level tandem of receiver is this?
Right. At what point do we just rip the Band-Aid off and stop trying to it's because there's sometimes I feel like I don't want to come out on here and say the Eagles are the team to beat in the NFL. I don't want to say that this wide receiver group is here because I want to keep an open mind. But at what point do we stop that and just acknowledge it for what it is? Yeah. I'm not saying they're the best tandem. When you look at what Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle's doing in Miami, they're also 3-0. Yeah. Obviously, the Bengals finally get a win, but we know what T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and Jamar Chase are. Yeah. We know if Camp is healthy, what Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Julio Jones could be.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're playing better than any other duo in the game, maybe outside of the speed in Miami.
Yeah.
And that is something, a tandem we've never seen. The league's never seen before. 2 guys, they're with that speed. The Eagles have a perfect match, a perfect combination of size and athleticism with speed and hand. It's just route running, hands, everything.
I'll be honest, man. How do you I know there's other teams the Rams have an offense when they're fully, oiled machine. They run kind of like this, right? How do you stop the Eagles? And if Jalen Hurts is playing like he's played against Washington and in Minnesota, and I guess we'll be asking this every week that they get a win, right? Mm-hmm. How do you stop the Philadelphia Eagles offense? Because I really don't know. Man,
Scotty, I don't have an answer for it. If you try to take the glass, if you try to look at it from the other perspective, and if the Eagles were our opponent, what would we do to stop them? I can't theorize anything because it all came back before this year. It all came back to number 1. All came back to possibly his limitations as a passer and going through progressions. And if, like you just said, if he keeps playing this type of ball from the pocket with his arm, I don't know what you do. You can't throw a man at him. They'll run the ball down your throat. He'll run the ball down your throat. You can't stack the box because they're too dangerous on the outside. He's reading zones now perfectly. Like you said, you can't lay off because with this offensive line, you're not going to get to him a lot because he's mobile and they have the best offensive line in football. If they want to, they can run the ball down your throat. I don't know. And the point is, man, like you said, they've only had 24 points the last 2 weeks and they both came in the first half. Wait till like games are a little closer and this offense continues to air the ball out in the second half. You're probably looking at closer to 30 points per game, 31 points per game within this offense.
These aren't tired defenses that they're just running past. These are defenses at the beginning of the game. So imagine how that looks when you get these
imagine when it's not
24-0.
Imagine when it's 24-13. And the game's still within reach, so the Eagles don't have to hand off.
And then you're going to see that running game come into effect. So, exactly, I mean, it's exciting, man. And Jalen Hurts, just one last thing, MVP considerations, right? We're week 3. There's nothing serious coming on so far. But so far, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, maybe Josh Allen. Who else? Right. I don't know who else you would throw in that mix so far. But Jalen Hurts, just a year after what we watched in the playoffs,
and Tua probably has to be in the conversation right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And just to look at Jalen Hurts, not even a year ago when he played against the Bucs in the playoffs, and this guy is 3rd in the league in passing yardage coming out of week 3.
Hey, man,
I mean, 916
thank you,
yards
Todd
through
Bowles,
3 games.
Right? Thank you. He's the one that said it. And because here's the thing, we all said he had the intangibles. He's going to put in the work, and he's not thin-skinned. So he's going to listen to his critics, hear what they have to say. Oh, he can't throw to his right. They were loading up on the right side because they knew he can't move to his right. Move to his left. He can't throw to his left. They knew he couldn't read his zone. He's one read, get out. All those things that you heard him working on this offseason, you're seeing pay dividends. Last question before I move on, because you mentioned the grand scheme. They're 3-0, man, and teams that start the season 3-0. Obviously, we know the Eagles did it in 2016 in Carson Wentz's rookie year, and they didn't make the playoffs. But teams that start off the season 3-0 make the playoffs 76% of the time. Obviously, with the way this division's shaping out right now and Dak's injury, not that it's like, oh, man, that's great for the playoffs, but there's a feel around this team. There's an acknowledgement that not only are they the best team in the NFC at the moment, they could potentially be the best team in the NFL at the moment. My question to you is this. In 2017, the Super Bowl year, like that was Wentz's second year too. And obviously we saw the eye test with Wentz's rookie year, but through 3 weeks, his sophomore year, I don't think any of us had like Super Bowl expectations at that moment. But if you remember that 61, 62 yarder from Jake Elliott against the Giants. And that was kind of the moment a lot of people pinpoint that, okay, this feels special, right? That was week 3. That was once there were no heading into the year with that roster. There was no Super Bowl expectations, but it felt real.
Yeah.
Up to this point, through 3 weeks, has there been a moment, or does his play with this roster, does it feel real to you already? Because it feels real to me, man.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, everybody was putting this Minnesota Vikings team on all the pedestals, right? Such high praise. Minnesota Vikings, sleeper in the NFC. Kirk Cousins, sleeper MVP. We shut that down on national television, stepped up to the plate. And I think that is what I would call my moment so far. Just beating the Vikings in that way, shutting Justin Jefferson up, shutting down the run game. And then to continue it on, I mean, it's been great so far. I guess what I'm looking for, but the Detroit Lions, they did make it close. I guess what I'm looking for is maybe a comeback win is what we need to really get that feeling like, this team can really do anything. But if you're not getting down, then there's no need to come back either. So it is tough.
And I hear
what
you.
will give you more confidence than what we have already seen is just, I guess, continuing to take care of business.
I hear you because it almost feels like too easy, right? And there's the whispers of the limited competition so far, and miss me with that, man. Like you said, of course, it's going when they win a close game and Jalen Hurts leads a 2-minute drill or whatever, or they come from behind down 10-0 early, whatever the case may be. Of course, that'll feel a little different and show you a different side to this team. But when you're this dominant, like you said, there's no need. Like, enjoy it for what it is, Eagles fans. Don't have an asterisk next to it because, oh, you don't think they play. Guess what, guys? Look at the schedule. We knew this heading into the year.
It's not getting much harder.
It's not getting much harder. And not just that, Scotty. Like, before the year started, we were sitting here like, okay, maybe 11-6, and we're picking losses. And did you guys expect? Like, I know it's the Commanders, it's the Lions, just the Vikings. Did anyone expect the Eagles to handle these three teams the way they have so far? No. So stop taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back because you're caught. Stop it. Just it
would be fraudulent. It would be fraudulent of us who we sit up here every single week and talk about the Birds. It would be fraudulent of us to sit here and act like they've done nothing the last 2 weeks at least. Not even counting week 1. We can count week 1. They dropped 38 points on that Lions defense. That look what the Lions did to the Vikings yesterday, right? Look what they did to Justin Jefferson. Shut him down in that game. So like, I'm not hearing that. I watched the Carson Wentz lead the league in like passing yards through the first 2 weeks. Like, I'm not giving these excuses out when we talked about the Vikings before they played the Eagles as potential Super Bowl contenders. Sneakily could beat out the Packers for the NFC North. Like, we can't pretend like that wasn't the talk, right? Like, and then getting to the Commanders, we talked about them leading into this season. We thought they were going to be a thorn in our side. And mind you, we still got to play them again. Maybe they get better. Maybe they get guys back, whatever the case may be. But we did say they would be a thorn in our side, and they were nothing even close to it. So I think if the Eagles were just squeaking by, that's a lot different than 48 to 15 over the last 2 weeks.
Right. And if Jalen Hurts wasn't playing to the level he was, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But it's just a perfect storm of how everything's looked, dude. Listen, man, it's a divisional game. It's NFC East. Every game is going, like most divisional games heading into them are expected to be a nail biter. You don't just go on the road and handle a divisional opponent, 24-8 and hold their offense to 6 points. You know what I mean? And as I'm talking, my AirPods just died, so I'm going to have you on the Mac now, Scotty. Heard the little but with all that being said, man, the Philadelphia Eagles are 3-0 to start this year. Jalen Hurts and this team and this defense as a whole are coming off back-to-back major, impressive, confidence building W's right now. And they come back home to the Link on Sunday, which obviously we'll get into that later in the week. It's going to be a more difficult game than I think we originally had projected looking at this roster or looking at the schedule. But nonetheless, like the Eagles are favored. That's another thing, dude. They are favorites in every game the rest of the way. No, listen,
no
one's kidding themselves that they're winning 17-0,
right?
or going 17-0. Can't speak tonight, but you get my point. They're going to be in every game, and they're actually favorites to win every game. But we do have the rest of a Sunday slate to cover, and being that we are 28 minutes in, we'll go through this a little more quickly. So I'll gloss over some of these games so far and just give you the Cliff Note version here, Scotty. The Panthers get a win at home against the New Orleans Saints. Jameis looks really bad back-to-back weeks. Alvin Kamara, just has not looked like Alvin Kamara so far. Panthers get their first win. Both of those teams are 1-2 to start the season.
For the Eagles.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing we didn't even mention. They are the number 1 team in the league right now and have the 6th or 7th overall pick 3 weeks in, but still, nonetheless, it looks pretty for the time being. Then you go to Soldier Field. Justin Fields and the Bears get a 23-20 victory over the Houston Texans. Texans 0-2-1 to start the year. Where are all of my Davis Mills people through 3 weeks right now? Bears 2-1, man. Now listen,
I'm not watching no Chicago games. Man.
No,
I'm not watching those games ever.
No, listen, they
zero
are not,
passing game.
No, yeah, they are not going to be fun to watch. And obviously when they played one real team so far, well, I mean, they beat the 49ers, albeit, but they got spanked by the Packers. So
I think they can play you tough. I'll give them that. The Bears can play you tough.
Maybe.
And that's what they've done so far. But
here's the thing. If you invested in the Bears over, which I don't know what the win projection was to start the year, but your over is looking pretty good to start the year.
Fair.
But let's get to our first interesting game and first really big outcome of this Sunday slate, man. The Colts with the upset at home over the Kansas City Chiefs. Travis Kelce lets one go through his hands in the end zone that probably wraps things up for Kansas City in a win to start 3-0. Mahomes doesn't look bad, but wasn't the Patrick Mahomes of the first 2 weeks. Matt Ryan throws a touchdown pass with under 30 seconds to go to bring home a win for Indy. Big win for Indianapolis. They're 1-1-1 now in the year. A lot different than 0-2-1. You probably could have stuck a fork in them if they lose that ball game. But is this more pro Colts, or is this more of a caution sign on the Chiefs for you?
It's actually really close in regards to both answers of that question, because I think it was a huge win for the Colts, and the Chiefs looked mightily frustrated just from what I saw in parts of that game. But huge win for the Colts. I think it has to be a bigger win for the Colts, just given what you're looking at on the other sideline with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Matt Ryan, he showed he showed he still has something left in the tank, right? 27 for 37, 222 yards, 2 touchdowns in that game. And I have it written down here. Colts are still alive, right? It's just a week-to-week type of season, and you got to take it for what it is. They're very much still alive in that division, even after getting skunked out by the Jags. But yes, I think it's a much bigger win for the Colts than I would say my worry is for the Chiefs. Although Patrick Mahomes showed a little bit of a human side. He did not a bad game. He looked average. It's a good sign for the rest of the NFL for them to look like that. It shows that they can have a game like that, right? Getting in an argument with Eric Bieniemy, I wouldn't put too much into that, although it isn't a good look out in public, obviously, and they know that. They won't do that again. But overall, I think it was just a really good upset of the week. I wouldn't put too much stock on the Chiefs side as far as worry, just because that game could go a lot differently. It was a very close game. It's not like you got blown out. It
if Travis Kelce catches that ball in the end zone, different ending, a different outcome, right? But I think the biggest takeaway, big win for the Colts. The biggest takeaway for me for Kansas City is, in a close game, late in the game, final possession, you kind of saw like the difference maker that Tyreek Hill can be in a situation like that. And don't get me wrong, it's not like they don't have weapons. He's not shy of weapons in Kansas City, but none of them are Tyreek Hill. None of them are capable of, either drawing so much attention that it helps out someone else on another route, or he's able to win off the line of scrimmage and create a chunk play. So that was the one thing. It was the first time you kind of saw that come to effect. Like, can the Chiefs come from behind? Can the Chiefs can Patrick Mahomes muster a late game drive? And of course he will as the season goes on. He's Patrick effing Mahomes. They'll have a comeback win down the line. But it was the first taste of, post Tyreek Hill era here with Kansas City, and comes with a loss. Next big game was probably our game of the week, especially in the 1:00 slate, man. The Bills and the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins come away with the upset 21-19. Josh Allen throws the ball 63 times.
Craziness.
The Miami Dolphins had the ball over 90% of the game, dude. The Buffalo Bills had the ball over 90% of the game.
Insane.
Tua threw just around 20 passes the entire game, and they were able to come away with a win. Now, Josh Allen did throw for 400 yards. He did throw a couple touchdowns. But, man, late in that game, he had a couple hiccups, and specifically that misread and that bad throw to Isaiah McKenzie at the goal line, which would have ultimately probably won them the game. But he misses that read at first, and then he misses the throw. Not a great look for Josh Allen. The fact that we walked away from this game with Tua consoling Josh Allen, like you would just picture it to go the other way around. You would never picture Josh Allen having his head on Tua's shoulder. But nonetheless, the Dolphins start 3-0 as well. Big win for them. And then the only other kind of storyline within this game, Tua gets hit before halftime, shoved, hits his head, wobbles, basically falls to the ground. Everyone and their mother believes it's a concussion. He says it was a back issue. His back locked up on him. And he was able to come out and play in the second half and ultimately lead his team to a win. But is that bad look. I know they have so many concussion protocols in place nowadays, so you wouldn't really expect it. I know the NFLPA is going to be doing an investigation into it. I don't know how extensive that'll be, but to me, like, if you watch that clip, I'm not excluding the fact that it could have been his back locking him up. That I've seen people, like I've seen, Pop Warner high school. I've seen kids hit their head, stand up, start to jog, and crumble the way his legs give out, and not really know where you are. Concussion every time. So is this a bad look for the NFL if something went,
I mean, yeah, if it goes, right, then definitely a bad look in the NFL, and specifically the Dolphins, who have had enough drama going and spinning around their organization. Got to wait and see what the investigation, if he was actually concussed, then we should find out, I would imagine, with the NFL Players Association starting their investigation, kind of refining the concussion protocols. They should be able to get to the bottom of that, I would imagine, just with post-testing after the game as well. But it's not a good look regardless, especially without having like a clear explanation. In a clear injury nod. What was the back injury? Just a back injury,
right? Like just a
what
quick
is that
spasm?
called when your back locks up and you fall to the ground? Because
that
would still cause for concern for me to not send him back out there without X-rays and more testing, because you could literally lose your capability of walking. Like, I'm not, you know what I mean? So like either way, I would say it's a bad look. And just to kind of finish off with this game in general. I guess I want to ask you, and I'll tell you how I feel first, but, who had the bigger statement in this game? Because it just felt like the Bills did everything that they did everything to lose that game. And, Josh Allen throws 63 times. That's very abnormal. Maybe, I don't know. It just showed me a lot about the Bills and what they look like. The fact that Jalen Waddle, yes, he had a big play at the end of the game, towards the end of the game, and Tua definitely garnered this win. But that wide receiving core didn't get off. Tyreek Hill had a dud of a game. They were able to keep him in check, even with the injuries in place. And Buffalo ends up losing that game, by 2 points with a chance to win. It just seems like in Miami, it just seems like Miami should have won that game by a lot more to me. But at the same time, you point out that the Bills have the ball 90% of the time. So I don't know. I'm interested in what you think.
The time of possession was the most lopsided time of possession you're going to see.
So
all
weird
year.
Too.
To me, I disagree.
Passing the ball that much.
I think this was so anti-Buffalo. The clock management and the missed field goal at the end of the first half, the clock management at the end of the game, having Josh Allen throw the ball 63 times. It just didn't make sense. And the fact that, sure, they were able to move their way up and down the field. He threw for over 400 passing yards, but like, dude, Miami's defense held him to 17 points. So you're right. Like, Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill in this offense didn't have an explosive day, and and Tua didn't have to do a ton. Explain to me how Buffalo gets out of the end zone and held under 20 points in this one. It makes zero sense. So to me, defensively, it's a pro, because, you limited those weapons from Miami, and you're missing, 3 or 4 of your secondary pieces and Ed Oliver up front. But the point is, Buffalo came in with the highest usage of pressure and the most sacks in the league. And I believe they only got to Tua one time. Like, Mike McDaniel has been phenomenal through the first 3 weeks in matchups and exploiting things and exploiting matchups. So, hats off to him, hats off to Miami, but
it just sounds like, I don't know. My perspective on that game is just more or less that the Bills lost that game rather than Miami winning it. I don't know. That's just kind of how I feel about it. Like, if I'm going to worry about the Bills,
so I think we're saying
I'm going to worry about their defense or secondary, not their offense. Quite honestly,
I think we're saying the same thing, but in different terms,
in different ways. Yeah, right. I think so.
I 100% agree. The Bill, but that's my point.
Still a big win for the Dolphins.
While you feel like the Dolphins should have blown the Bills out, I'm saying no. The Bills have a loss and should have won by 16. I'm saying that's why it's a worse look.
Same
for
thing.
them.
Yeah, you are correct.
Just the opposite side. But nonetheless, big win for Miami. You knew that that Buffalo wasn't going to go undefeated. And I think your boy D-Rab said that on Turf Talk on Sunday morning.
For sure.
Next game, NFC North battle. The Lions blow a late one to the Minnesota Vikings. KJ Osborne scores a 27-yard touchdown, 28-yard touchdown with under a minute to go. Really helped me out. Didn't help Scotty out. So that was one of the games we saw differently yesterday. But nonetheless, Vikings start 2-1, Minnesota 1-2. But Vikings 2-1, Detroit 1-2. I cannot speak tonight, man. I don't know what's happening. But what are your thoughts here? Because if you're the Lions, obviously we know the Lions aren't a finished product, but when you're seeing what their offense has been capable of, and now DeAndre Swift's a little banged up, he's going to miss some time.
Yeah.
If you're looking at it from the Lions' point of view, it's like, how many passes do we get? Like when are you going to win a close game? When are you going to finish one? You had a 2-possession lead through the entirety of this game, and you blow it in the final 5 minutes. Like, when are you going to finish a close game underneath Dan Campbell? That's my question.
Yeah, I feel you. That's a game that you just can't afford to lose. We were talking, before that game, maybe the Lions have enough talent to get them by. And then, you get a Jamison Williams later on in the season and look even better, right? But, you can't lose games like this if you're trying to build a culture and ultimately change the tide in Detroit. And this just looked like a very much another one of those Detroit games where they're, doing everything perfect at first, and then you just slowly watch it crumble down. DeAndre Swift gets injured. Now he's out for a few weeks. What's that offense really look like now? Because they've been basically using DeAndre Swift as a decoy. He hasn't been getting a lot of touches at all. Jamal Williams has been kind of manning that backfield. And as a DeAndre Swift fantasy owner, I would just say, thank you. Sit him down for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Let me get DeAndre Swift when he's going to get his touches, because you're having me go out here and start this guy, and he's not even in the game. So
him and Javonte Williams, man.
It makes me sick. Bro, I went out today, that same team. It's my dynasty team, and I went out today and got Najee Harris, and did not give up Javonte or Swift. So I'm happy about that. I ended up trading. I did give up a little bit, James Robinson and Hollywood Brown for Najee Harris. Dynasty.
Steal.
Najee Harris is what, 24, 25 years, 23 years old.
See, he's a second year back.
24, and Javante's 22. So, I mean, talking about a trio of backs.
Come on, man. That's ridiculous. You basically traded James Robinson for Najee, and you Hollywood Brown's a throw it. Like, are you kidding?
I would imagine his production's going to go quite down, once DeAndre Hopkins comes back. And I sold Hollywood high. He had a great game yesterday, so I
look at you, always on the market.
Hey, always.
Moving forward, the Ravens take care of business 37-26 over the Pats. Lamar pads his stats some more. Continues to add on to his MVP candidacy early on in the season, while Mac Jones appeared to suffer a really bad injury. I just saw a report a couple minutes ago that it's a high ankle sprain that most might have surgery on. He's definitely going to miss multiple games, and they'll go forward from there. So the Patriots, with a bit, it's a big blow for them, because not that they were much, but to go from Mac Jones to Brian Hoyer.
Stability,
is a big loss for them. But nonetheless, the Ravens bounce back from a bad loss against Miami last week. They're 2-1 now.
Any concerns with the Ravens defense, just before you move on there? Like Mac Jones and the Patriots, I get it. They win the game by double digits. 26 points. Mac Jones goes over 300 passing yards. He did have 3 interceptions,
and Aguilar fumbled late. Yeah, man. Because if they don't turn the ball over, like, you're looking at giving up 30+ points. And as a man, as you know this from Turf Talk yesterday, as a man who heavily hammered Ravens -2.5, I was sweating that game for 3.5 quarters. It was ridiculous. So
the Patriots were able to run at will. They were able to run the ball.
It was really weird, man. It was really weird to see, because they're pretty healthy, especially in their front seven. So it's not making sense to me why their defenses look this way the last 2 weeks. A lot of miscues, a lot of breakdowns in the secondary for sure. But nonetheless, another AFC North team, the Bengals, get their first win of the season, beating the New York Jets 27-12. Joe Burrow has a bounce back game. Preseason might be like, Joey, this was his third game,
Right.
He didn't play in the preseason. Maybe he's starting to hit his stride now, or it is just the Jets. The one thing that stuck out to me, I saw a stat this morning. The Jets have thrown the ball the most out of any team in the NFL with Joe Flacco.
That's incredible.
What are we doing? Robert Saleh, I'm keeping receipts, brother. So, like,
they have good running backs too.
What in your right mind? What are you doing in New York, throwing the ball more than anybody else through 3 weeks with Joe effing Flacco? I don't care if it was Zach Wilson. What are you doing back there, dude? I have no idea, but nonetheless, the Bengals come away with a 15-point win here on Sunday. That game, I'm not going to lie, did not have my eye on at all.
Not much.
Exactly.
One thing to ask you. Jamar Chase sophomore slump? Any chance? You know,
I don't know, man. He was rough yesterday for
no huge game yet.
Yeah, but it's hurting. It's hurting. He was good against Pittsburgh week 1.
He was good week 1. I take that back.
But the last 2 weeks, the Cowboys and now the Jets. This week, I thought he would have a breakout game. He did not. So we'll see. I'm assuming one of those games is coming. Hell, it could be Thursday night. This could be. We'll talk about it this Thursday. But this is going to be an exciting matchup offensively. Yeah. Last game in the 1 o'clock slate we have to go over. I'm at a loss of words, man. I'm going to throw this team to you. The Titans get a win at home 24-22 over the Las Vegas Raiders. They are 0-3. Scotty, they're the only 0-3 team this year.
Yeah.
And obviously a game we're going to get into in a couple minutes with the Denver Broncos. They're 2-1, but they have looked god awful. And we'll get into another game with the Chargers who are coming up. Like, what has happened to this AFC West division? Like, this was must-see TV every time these teams are on the field. And my God, this division has looked terrible.
It's falling apart, man.
But specifically the Raiders. Like, dude, you're cooked. I said it to you last week. You start out 0-2 that you're already digging yourself in a hole. Now, I know the Chiefs lost, so they're only 2-1. The Chargers lost, they're 1-2. But
look, man,
I get you. But if you're talking about Vegas, good luck climbing out of a 0-3 hole within this division.
They have a huge opportunity in week 4. Huge opportunity. Yeah, and that's all I'm calling it. It's just an opportunity.
Hunter, who are you a fan of?
Oh man, you don't even want to know. He's a Cowboys fan, dirtbag.
Oh dear God.
Dear
God. We'll get to your boys in a few minutes.
But no, the Raiders, man, it's interesting because they go against the Chiefs team now, and maybe I would feel like the Raiders have a better chance against the Chiefs if the Chiefs weren't coming off a loss, but you're going to get an angry and refined Patrick Mahomes. You're going to get an angry and refined offense in Kansas City. And I don't know. It's going to be hard for me to see the Raiders beating the Chiefs in week 4. And then what happens if you lose to the Chiefs in week 4? You're 0-4.
Oh, you're done.
So, it's over. Most disappointing team in the NFL. For sure. The Broncos have been very disappointed. Don't get me wrong.
Finding a way to win.
They're getting wins. That's it, right? Like the defense at least looks stout. That's a good sign. But the Raiders, they had a win in the bag week 2 against the Cardinals. You fell asleep. This game against the Titans, they get down early. You can't come back. Derek Carr's making sloppy, bad decisions in big moments. I mean, it just does not look good, man.
Nope.
They got all the offensive talent in the world, but it doesn't.
Now, I know he wasn't going to get his money. I know he wasn't going to get his money in Green Bay, but you think Devontae Adams is having some second thoughts right now? Going to play with his boy?
Yeah, man. I mean, you're in the AFC West, so how big can this hole get dug before you are completely done? I mean,
Scotty, teams that start 0-2, teams that start the season 0-2 have a pretty low percentage. It's like a 27% of making the playoffs. I don't even know what teams that start 0-3 are in the AFC. In the AFC West, like that's my point. I get it's 3 weeks in. They had dug themselves already too deep of a hole. Think about this, dude. Even if they go 3, even if they pull off 3 straight, you're a 500 ball club. I don't know, man.
Part of it. I wouldn't call him the main issue, but he's part of it.
He was really good last year. And it's like you give him this new toy in Devontae Adams and his best friend and Darren Waller.
He's getting careless.
With this offense, he's back to that turnover-ridden, holding on to the ball for too long in the pocket type of play, and it's not good for the Raiders right now. But moving on to
Matt Collins,
for real. Moving on to the other team in the AFC. West, and that is the Los Angeles Chargers. They get their doors blown off at home by the Jags, 38-10. You saw Justin Herbert get hit a couple times and grimace on the ground. We talked about Tua earlier. Should he have been allowed back in that game? Obviously, we talked about the decision to keep Justin Herbert in the game last Thursday. Now you allow him to play, and all you're hearing out of their head coach and out of Justin Herbert is, well, he really wanted to play. I don't care. 38-10 at home. You're telling me there's no issue. You watch him get hit for the first time. He hits the turf and he can't even get up right away. And they zoom in on his face and he looks like he wants to cry. There is no reason you can give me to say that, like, to justify Justin Herbert playing this past Sunday. Ridiculous, and the Chargers get their doors blown off at home. Reversely, the Jags might be the best team in the AFC South at the moment. Again, too early to tell. The Colts coming off of a big win. Things can change there so quickly. But Trevor Lawrence, Doug Peterson has these guys playing really good, and their defense looks really good too.
Yeah, no lies there. I mean, Trevor Lawrence looks the part. He finally has shown that talent, and it makes you wonder, how big of a detractor really was Urban Meyer.
He might be the worst coach in NFL history.
I mean, my God, it's ridiculous. And shout out to Doug Peterson. He's got 2 wins under his belt. He's 5th all time in Jags winning in regular season. Isn't that something? So with 2 wins, he gets into the top 5 winningest coaches in Jags history.
It's crazy.
That's incredible. But the Chargers, it looks completely dumb now when you look at it. You throw Justin Herbert out there and still lose by 28 points. What was the point in it? You could have let
at your crib
2 weeks, right? They play the Texans next. Now, do you sit Justin Herbert, risk losing to the Texans? I don't know what the Chargers are doing either, man. Because that was a top 5 team in my power rankings. Where are they now? They just lost 38-10 at home.
Yep.
And Justin Herbert played.
Right.
I know he's injured,
and you can't
played.
Regardless if it affected the play, you cannot hit me with, well, we didn't have Justin Herbert. But now even more so for the Chargers, dude. Keenan Allen, obviously unhealthy, didn't play. Rashawn Slater is done for the year. Jalen Guyton.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Rashawn Slater's done for the year. Jalen Guyton tore his ACL. He's out for the year. The Chargers are in trouble right now, man. And listen, this is something we'll talk about later in the week. As Eagles fans, it's not going to be a rollover matchup for the Eagles. The Jags look legit. Doug has them playing great ball. Trevor Lawrence looks like that prospect we saw coming out of Clemson, right? James Robinson's rejuvenated. ETN's still there. Christian Kirk now was worth the money so far, and their defense has been phenomenal. You shut out the Colts 2 weeks ago, and then you limit Justin Herbert and the Chargers to 10 points this week. So
they may, they may be the best team so far that we're playing, like as far as the way they're playing. They're playing really good football.
Yeah.
And they may very well be the best team that we've played so far. So definitely not sleeping on the Jags. It will be funny when my boy Warren says that the Jags are that good, and then we go out and blow the Jags out at home again. So it's going to be funny if that happens again. But
then it's just the Jags, right? And then it's just the Jags.
And then it's just the Jags. That's what it turns into.
Exactly. But all right, man, let me gloss over these next 2 games real quick, and then we'll get into the final 2 and get into tonight's game. The Falcons pull away with a 27-23 win in Seattle. My God, I know we were making fun of this game yesterday morning. Ends up, I mean, 50 points between these 2 teams. Never thought I'd see the day. Geno Smith, Marcus Mariota, Kyle Pitts seemed like he finally got a little bit involved yesterday. But the Falcons pull away with a win. Both teams 1-2, 2 of the worst teams in the league. Didn't really care for it. The Rams get a win in Arizona versus the Cardinals. Both sides unimpressive to me, and here's why. Obviously, the Cardinals only scored 12 points. Kyler Murray does not use his legs yet again. I think he only rushed 2 times. They kicked 4 field goals. The Cardinals seem to be in trouble, and then the Rams. Yes, you won the game by 8. You covered. You won 20-12. The offense. Matt Stafford threw for 122 passing yards in the first quarter. Scotty, at the end of the third quarter, he had 152. Their offense, and now again, that could be a scary thing. They're 2-1. Their only loss is week 1 to Buffalo, and they have not hit their stride whatsoever. So there is room for optimism there, but at the same time, what is going on in LA with this offense specifically. The defense did its job holding the Cardinals to 4 field goals, but offense, you only scored 20 points and you started off on fire. A lot of question marks for me there. Now,
and I mean, just one quick point, just looking, at this game, statistically, when you have what's his name, Skowronek? How do you say that? Skowronek. I know you said that on this show before. When he's your leading receiver, I would say that the game's probably not going according to script. So that's just one thing I would point out for the Rams. They usually have a very good game plan in system. They're able to do what they want to do, and I don't think that was the game plan there to have Cooper Kupp held to 44 receiving yards and so on and so forth. But I would look for the Rams to get it together soon, hopefully. Yeah, and that's a very fair point when you're looking from the outside in, but
it isn't.
You still got to take care of the business.
No. It's not because I'll pull out a line from my man Phil Stifle. Excuses are like assholes. Everybody's got one. Did you watch Denver week 1? They fumbled twice on the 1 yard line. You could have said, well, if Denver doesn't fumble on the 1, they would have won the game. So it's the NFL, man. Things happen. So I'm not giving you that excuse. So if it could have been 27-12. No, it wasn't. A play happened and it went the other way. Like the Broncos would have won by double digits if they don't fumble on the 1 2 times. So can't do that. But there's some positive to be left there with the Rams. A lot of improvements. Now we get to the Packers. Packers beat the Bucs 14-12 in Tampa. Obviously, the Bucs come in heavily undermanned, missing Jensen and and the left tackle, I believe. And then obviously missing their top.
Tom Brady's. Is it Tristan?
No.
Well, no, he's right tackle, right?
Yeah. I forget who it was. I forget. But then obviously missing Mike Evans to suspension.
Yeah.
Chris Godwin and Julio Jones. He's throwing to Russell Gage and Brashad Perryman and so forth. His 4th, 5th, and 6th receivers out here. But this one tells me more about the Bucs, and here's why. So again, this is another case, just like the Rams, of we're kind of all sitting here waiting for that turn. Like, okay, well, the Bucs aren't healthy, so we're assuming when Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Julio Jones are healthy, their offense is going to be high powered and score a lot of points. Well, Scotty, they haven't cracked 20 points in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
They have more turnovers than they do touchdowns on the season. Mike Evans played the first 2 weeks. Chris Godwin, Julio Jones played week 1. You know what how worried are we saying, oh, well, Tom's there, so it's all good. This defense is legit. See, it's probably the best defense in the NFL at the moment.
Yeah, but I would agree with that.
This offense has been so lethargic, healthy or unhealthy. It doesn't really matter. They can't score the ball. So how worried are you, even if they do get fully healthy, about this Bucs offense and Tom Brady?
You bring up very good points, because you have me thinking here, because coming into this conversation, I was honestly going to plan to say that I've been fairly impressed with the Bucs, and I was impressed with the way they played that game. But you are correct on the offensive side. I mean, even without those receivers, you should still be able to run the football. You should still be able to get some points on the board. Like 3 points, right? Like, you know what I mean? You're going through this game without points, and then you wait until the end of the game to finally get a touchdown. But I mean, I get your point. It really has me rethinking mine, because what I had written down here was that this is a bigger win for Green Bay than it was a loss for Tampa Bay.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
I view it as an L for both sides. Like my thoughts on Tampa.
Fair.
You're Green Bay. Dude, you scored 14 points. You won by 2 points, and Tampa was missing 5 starters offensively and their top 3 receivers. That is a loss any other week. I'm not saying Tampa Bay scores more than 15, but they're going to score that 15 with those guys out there. So, both sides, I think, are man, that's why as an Eagles fan, it's even more exciting, because
that's fair.
The 2 or 3 teams that we thought would be ahead of the Eagles, it's only 3 weeks, but none of them have looked good.
Yeah, because I mean, I get what you're saying. The defense has been spectacular for Tampa Bay, but that offense is not carrying its weight, and even without the weapons, it's not carrying its weight, and that's concerning. To see sloppy football, Tom Brady and company.
Well, I guess my point is okay, you can have that excuse this week. What was the excuse week 1 and week 2?
Exactly. You weren't putting points up, right? And
No,
okay, the Dallas defense is solid, right? You're not putting points
scored
up.
one touchdown.
Yeah, I mean that's a little ridiculous. So
So
I'm with you. You kind of changed my mind on that. At the end of the day, I guess I was so impressed by Tampa Bay's defense to like
yeah.
keep them in that game. Like I
And
just
it
felt
was
like they
such a
had
weird game, right?
no
Because
business
Rodgers
being
was
in
on
that game.
fire in the first half. Rodgers was like 15-17 with 2 touchdowns, and they were rolling. And then all of a sudden, turnovers start to happen, and they don't score any more points. Yeah. Not very far, man. Like they're 2-1. Not impressed with them at all. They got their doors blown off by Minnesota week 1. Like I said, if any one of those 3 receivers play yesterday, doesn't mean the Bucks score a lot and their offense is back, but I promise you they scored more than 15 and they beat the Packers yesterday. And congratulations, you beat the Chicago Bears at home week 2 in primetime football. So the Packers, although they're 2-1, although the Bucks are 2-1, not impressed with either of them. The Rams 2-1. Not impressed with either of them. They did get him involved a little bit yesterday, but
Packers two wins against non-existent offenses right now. I mean,
100%. 100%.
that's
Now,
kind of a way to look at it.
speaking of non-existent offense.
Oh my God. I know what's coming here.
The worst football game of the season. The worst football game my eyes have ever been laid on. The worst Sunday night football game possibly of all time. The Broncos pull out a win 11-10 against San Fran. Scotty, just quick before we move on to tonight's game and get off the show. What happened? What happened? We came on here. The Broncos continued to be a mess, and that's exactly what they were last night. But their defense was phenomenal. Russ and his offense. Now, don't get me wrong. That last drive that they scored, it was a little bit of vintage Russ. Had a couple scrambles, made the throw to Sutton down the right sideline. Then they punch it in from the 2 with Melvin Gordon, not Javonte Williams, of course.
Yeah, but that made me sick. Man. Oh man, don't get me started on that
but
shit.
The offense was terrible. And then reversely, like we're saying, oh man, like this Niners team, they're better with Jimmy, and the Niners in the locker room feel more comfortable. My God. You scored on the first drive, and I don't know if you crossed the 50 the rest of the way.
They played so scared, I feel like, man. They played so scared.
Jimmy was horrible, dude. Jimmy was horrible.
He was very
out of whack. You couldn't get Debo going. George Kittle was a non-factor. Everything you want to do offensively was horrible. I really had no takeaway from this game.
I was going to say the only takeaway that I could come up with is that the Broncos lucked into another win. They could very well easily be 0-3 if any of the teams that they have played have, just had a little bit of sense to them. But is Jimmy G that bad, or was that Broncos defense? Or
I think it was a combination of both.
It was disgusting,
but it was really bad, man. Like I don't even know. I have no words for the game.
Yeah, I'm good on that game.
And they lost Trent Williams.
Disgusting enough to
really bad.
Yeah, good call.
All right, Hunter, here we go. Cowboys, Giants, Monday Night Football. Cowboys coming in 1-1 at the moment. Cooper Rush, no Dalton Schultz, still no Michael Gallup. Is Jason Peters getting the start tonight? Did I read that correctly, or is he just active? Like I don't know if he's starting or if he's just active. Not sure there. Cooper Rush is only making his third start as a QB in the NFL. Reversely, the Giants are 3-0, but Daniel Jones has never won in primetime football. The Cowboys have won like the last 7 or 8 matchups against the New York Giants. So what are your thoughts on this matchup, man? Listen, I love the under. I'll tell you that. Love the under.
I'm with you. I'm thinking a very, very boring game tonight. I'm not looking for a lot of
fireworks. We'll get Seahawks Falcons offense.
I know, man. I know. And the one thing I'll say, like CeeDee Lamb, I'm going against him in Dynasty. I do not need anything spectacular from him.
I have him in the DSM league, man. It's rough.
We can just contain him. That would be great. But I don't know how to feel about this game. I told you before we came on the air, I'm leaning Giants.
Me too.
Just because Cooper Rush, he doesn't have any business out here winning games in prime time. But if the Giants lose,
Daniel Jones,
he did it. So if they come out here and lose, and we know that the Giants are the same old Giants, I would say it's more of a barometer game. I would agree with what you said at the beginning of the show for the Giants, right? If the Cowboys lose this, big deal. You have Cooper Rush. You already got a win against Cincinnati with Cooper Rush. You get away with that. So you can kind of afford to
There's
win.
no excuse for the
lose a
Giants
game.
to lose this game.
Zero excuse for the Giants. You're in New York.
And
you're on
you got
time.
someone healthy. Kayvon Thibodeau's making his debut tonight. So
Hey man, similar situation. I know it's in division. What the Eagles did to the Minnesota Vikings last week. This is your chance to kind of put the Giants on Front Street if they are good.
This is the most polite diss I've ever seen. The most polite, disrespectful comment. I dislike Cooper Rush a lot.
They took that L to Cooper Rush last year.
Let's see. We will win if Cooper Rush can show something different. If not, we might be in trouble for sure, man. Listen,
I'm interested to see if the Giants defense is like
what
as
did he
stout
throw
as
for
it's
last week?
looked
He
so
threw
far.
for what, like 230, 240 last week against Cincinnati?
Yeah,
he wasn't horrible, but it's his third career start, man. And like I said, like you still don't have Gallup. You don't have Dalton Schultz, and you're beat up on your offensive line. This is 110% up to the defense to not allow more than like 13 points tonight. That's all this is. No, Mason. I don't know your age, so please don't make a bad comment. Keep your
I don't want you to get in trouble, little man. I don't know, man. It's interesting. You know, the Cowboys, their defense has looked really good so far. But what I would say is both these teams are prone to give up runs. Like they're prone to give up yards in the run game. You talk about the Giants. I think week 1, Derrick Henry had a solid game against them. I think he was up over 80 rushing yards. Week 2, Christian McCaffrey, he went over 100. So there's room to work out there for Zeke, for Pollard in the run game. We'll see what Cooper Rush. Just don't make mistakes against a team like the Giants, right? Don't turn the ball over. Saquon, we saw Leonard Fournette expose the Cowboys defense week 1 for the Bucs. He went over 100 rushing yards for the Bucs. So there's room to work for Saquon. Is Saquon Barkley back? So there's a couple things that I'm looking for in this game, but I'll be honest with you, I don't have a good gauge on who's going to win this game because I need to learn more about the Giants. I'll be honest with you. I don't know enough about the Giants, and that's why I'm going to watch this game semi-closely tonight.
100%. And as Eagles fans, do we think it's going to be boring? Yes, but it is, like you said, a nice little – again, it's a barometer, but it's not. Like Giants, you should take care of business, but I also don't think you're that good, and so what if you beat Cooper Rush? But reversely, if you lose to Cooper Rush, I'm probably going to laugh in your face. And my apologies. I think I said the Giants were 3-0 when we started. No, they're 2-0. It's obviously week 3. But they are the third last remaining undefeated team. And 100%, man. Of course, you have to lean on your rushing attack with Zeke and Tony Pollard. But 100%, I could see Mike McCarthy dropping Cooper Rush back at least 45 times. But I like the Zeke stat. Obviously, if you guys are betting before we wrap up this show, 2 boost on this game brought to you by DraftKings. The one is first drive, no offensive touchdown, boosted to $150 max. I laid that, and then the other one is $50 max, boosted to $100. Zeke or Saquon Barkley to score a touchdown tonight.
Yes, sir. I threw a nice amount. I think I threw 50.
Yeah, that was the max. That's what I did.
Yeah, I threw something like that on that because I think one of them scores.
And it's not a rushing touchdown. It's just a touchdown.
Any touchdown.
As well. Guys, that is going. But anyway, I'm going with the Giants. That's my final pick. It's basically a pick 'em. It's a 1-point spread. We'll see what we're in store for tonight. But anyway, it is Monday Night Football nonetheless. We get to relax coming off of an Eagles win here. For myself, guys, you can check me out on Twitter at DylanJD98. Check my co-host out at Scotty Drown. Media day today in the NBA for the Sixers. The host of NBA Scotty Talks, the host of the Faithful Fanatic Show. Me and Gint will be live tomorrow at 5 p.m. talking about this Eagles win again, and then talking about Sixers starting training camp and media day. Myself, I don't know if you're still joining Phil and myself on Trending in the AM tomorrow.
I am not tomorrow. I won't be there. I gotta work. Damn,
Phil, we lost Scotty on this one. But anyway, guys, if you're new to the channel, head on over to at DSM_media on Twitter. Can I speak correctly tonight? Hit that follow button. We greatly appreciate it. And while you guys are on the page, check out the link tree in our bio. Most importantly, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. We're on every social media platform. But at the top of that link tree, Scotty, pull up that crew neck again. There's some new merch on the DSMT public site. And that is Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, and you got the new school you got the new school font up top with the Go Birds, but then you got the old school logo, the old school eagle in the front. If you guys like the merch, check it out. If you guys just want to support DSM, there's that and many other Sixers and just DSM show designs on this site as well. We greatly appreciate it. They might still be on sale. I'm not sure, but TeePublic runs sales almost every
constantly.
week. So check out the TeePublic site. We appreciate it. Shout out to my man Willie for the design.
Yes, sir.
Have a great rest of your Monday night, guys.
One-on-one.